Alright, I am starting my video blog here, one of hopefully many, and what we're going to be doing is doing a vacuum kit of the original series, Romulan Bird of Prey. I picked this kit up probably, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, from a gentleman that had it made from the fiberglass mold. So, as you can see, it is still all sealed up, so let's kind of see what we got here. I did some research on the internet and I actually only saw one other build of this thing, and you know, the guy kind of was a little inexperienced, so I figured I'd get my hand at it and try to see what we got here. So obviously those are the wings, so you got upper and lower wings. What else we got here? The nacelles. So actually not too bad. Kind of a little chubbier than the ones you see from was it Round 2 or Polar Lights or whoever makes the little miniature one. So let's see what else. Resin tail. And the decal. It's out of the bag. Okay, so you got vinyl, I guess, well, vinyl window frames. And two-piece decal. Have to definitely shoot that with some lacquer or something, coat it before you start carving it up. Resin tail. And here's your there's the domes for the front of the engine, and looks like the clear resin piece for the back. Okay, so actually pretty clear. That looks pretty good. Clear cast clear. That's got to be the rear exhaust. I guess that fits in there. So you got two of those. And the emitter, the secret weapon. So, and these are the instructions. The gentleman had emailed me the instruction sheet. Actually come out with 13 pages. So I'll have to go through that. So I guess what kind of sparked this build here was finishing that. Finally. Took me a year and a half to build this. Due to some health issues, but I figure why not? Let's build this thing. So this thing is roughly, I'll give you motion sickness, and that's an architectural scale. So where the hell's the 1 inch? Right there. So overall length is about 11 inches. The body width is 8 inches, so with the wings on it, you're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of I don't know, say probably 18 inches or so. Given the fact that that's that, so or something. Along the yeah, I guess this top. So yeah, we are 12, 17. Figure the engines are about 1.5 inches. So yeah, so you got a good 18, 20 inches of wingspan. So it's a pretty sizable kit. I mean, just kind of give you a reference. I'll take you on another trip. But that's the big Enterprise, the 1350, and that's the comparison of the Romulan hull to the saucer. So you're every bit as big as the Enterprise saucer. So, all right, delve into that. So, thanks. All right. So one of the things that kind of sets this apart from some of the other vacuum kits that I have built. I built a couple of the lunar model ones from 100 years ago. They tell you where to trim and what not to trim. So essentially what I did was I gone around on the parts and just took a black Sharpie and marked where my cut line should be. So just basically following that, and they also remind you not to cut the damn lip off the top part of the hull, so that the two will marry together. Now I've got the other ones kind of cut up. I didn't use the number 11. I used the one bigger than that, I guess, which is I don't know what the hell it is, a number 2. But it's the bigger X-Acto. And what it does is it kind of allowed me to follow this line a lot better, and when I was cutting the hull, it allowed me to use part of the hull as a guide, so that when I was cutting, you know, I could use the side of the part and just kind of gently score it. You want to make sure that we're not exerting so much force to make that first cut all the way through. What you want to do is just kind of get you a groove going with the blade and make 4 or 5 cuts as you do it, and you'll eventually break through in spots. When they draw this down around the mold, you get, I call it thick spots, thin spots. So this thing isn't uniform, and as you can see, it is extremely flimsy. So I got some ideas on how to kind of make this a little more rigid, and not by filling it full of a plaster, but basically I'm gonna build some spars, I guess, internally. But so anyway, when I made the cuts, I cut the other pieces out. I started off with like a 60 grit sandpaper on a sanding block, and I got my shape. So the two kind of fit together well. So anyway, on to the next part. Alright, so we're back out here on my messy bench. So let me just show you basically what I'm using to kind of get where I'm at right now. I sanded all the, after I made the cuts, I sanded all the edges with 120. So that cut it down and gave me the shape that I wanted. So essentially I've got to this point here. Now I made some marks here because, as I said, this thing right now, without the side support that this thing was molded in, it's extremely flimsy. As you can see, it's extremely pliable. Now I work in a plastics manufacturing plant, and even though they they build this as styrene, this is not the styrene that you guys have with the model kits. You know, that stuff there has got a little more crystalline. This is something like it's got some kind of a modifier on it to make it more pliable, which is not good. It's good and it's not good. It makes it easy to vacuum form, but it also makes it crappy for you know, trying to build models and support things. So so what I've done is basically kind of laid out some marks that I'm going to put a ribbing in. So, and to give you an example, this is what I did. We're done. Yeah, I don't speak English for primary language. But if you don't have one of these things are nice, because what they do is they allow you to do this. So now I have a profile of the wing, or whatever shape that I'm cutting. So I use that to trace onto some plastic to get my spars, ribs, whatever you want to call them. So I've laid 2 ribs in here, a couple of cross pieces, and I beefed up. This has been drying here for several hours, and this has become extremely rigid. So now, if I get the right part, I've got to do a little more sanding. But now I got something rigid. My next thought is I'm going to run some tubing. I don't know if that'll be the size, it'll probably be close to it, but I'm going to run tubing up through this, because this part here mounts to the hull. So I'll run tubing here where I can run my wires up into the nacelles, and that, coupled through my ribs, should make this extremely rigid, right? Because it'll tie my mounting point to the hull all the way up to the nacelle, and being glued and rigid. Now let's talk about glue. Because this stuff is extremely soft, and I mean really ductile, this stuff here, if you put a lot of it on, what happens is it melts. It literally will melt the styrene. And you know, I got to test to that, because this is a Lunar Models C-View, and this was done actually a couple of weeks ago, and it just destroyed the plastic. So you want to stay away from this, because this seems to be a little bit different than this, and this is what I've been using on this. And literally, when I use the brush applicator on the points that I want to glue, you can actually see it kind of dissolve the plastic a little bit, not a lot, but it basically bonds that damn plastic to each other and becomes a very rigid weld. So that's the game plan for the wings. So what else? So I got both wings kind of set up like that right now. I got to put a little more bracing in here. I would just definitely want to brace this up a little bit. I guess my thought process is, when it comes time for the hull, is I'm probably going to put a couple more pieces of styrene here and basically screw it through from the hull side into this. We'll see how that goes. I don't know, may change that thought process, but I mean, that's kind of the game plan. We'll see how that goes. The nacelles, I again trimmed it out. Like I said, I took I can't find shit on my damn bench here, but I took I think it was a number 2 blade on the big the thicker of the X-Actos, and basically I just ran down the edge, sanded it. So I got the two halves together. Now what I've done with these, this is the part that mounts to the wing, and then you get the outer part. I took a circle template. One of these you can get at Michael's or whatever for under $5, I guess. Found out what size I needed, so like this is like 1 3/8 inches, as I did the measurement. So again, cut out the plastic, one here, and then inserted a tube, and it went from being like this to being very, very rigid. Now I'm going to put a couple more tabs here. These are actually a little too big because when I put these two together, it doesn't give me around, so I got to slice this down just a little bit. But this will be my glue points. So I'll glue it and then fill it and go from there. This will all allow, this will also allow me to mount my LEDs. So the intent is to put a green flickering here and a red flickering or an amber. I bought one of each. I should say one color of each. I bought the amber and I bought the red, so I got to see how that turns out. This has got to get cut out. Now, if you look at the studio model, what's left of the pictures, I guess you can say, it's not very good, but as you can see, these are rounded, and it should be almost a very sharper angle. So again, circle template, figured out what diameter that inner one is, and then what the outer one is. So I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to cut the edge, I'll cut around the edge, cut around the middle. This will go in like that after I got the two halves together. And then I should have an edge here as I putty it and then sand it down, and I should get my nice crisp edge there. This is supposed to be cut at an angle, I guess you can say. Still thinking about how to do that. Basically, I may do the same thing, is put a piece here, put it on top, and then just take the Avery's, which not Avery's. What is this stuff here? Evercoat. This stuff is really good for doing some filling. It's easy to work with too. So essentially, like I said, I'll take it when I have this piece, fill it, get my nice crisp corner, and go from there. And then of course you got the tail pieces that go on the back here with the engine insert, and then you got the dome here. Now, like on the Polar Lights, I think it's Polar Lights who makes the little 1000 scale. Paragraphics did a photo etch for it, and they got a little cage for the inside. And I built that. I'll show that to you later. But I built that model with that piece in there, and it actually, it gave it some depth to it, I guess you can say, or some purpose. It's just not a frosted dome with a light in it. So it may cast shadows. So I may build something like that, or see what the Thingiverse or Thingiverse or whatever the hell it is, or Shapeways has. Maybe buy something like that, where you can just drop it in, go from there. So other than that, I mean, right now that's kind of where I'm sitting. I got the hull here again. If you remember earlier in the shot, the hull was extremely flexible, very, very pliable, right? So what I did was I ran a cross piece side to side so that it would hold its shape, and then from there found the center line of the ship, ran center piece here, which stopped this kind of flex, and then from there I went out and held the sides. So this is pretty much a straight shot. In fact, this is, I mounted here, so the wing goes from this point back to this point. So this is all mounting area. So I put a piece of I don't know, 20 thousandths styrene, 30 thousandths, something like that here on each side. And then with the cross bracing, it really made this rigid. I built this up. This is where I plan on putting my my lights. So I'm gonna have the LEDs here. There's actually there's like a horseshoe shaped ring of lights that goes on the top hole. And what the hell did I do with it? Here it is. Alright. So I don't know if you can see that, but I gotta drill these out later, but there's, you got hole, I mean porthole, and then you got a bunch of portholes around this raised piece. These dimples here are from the vacuum forming, and I'm going to leave them alone until I get ready to prep the hull for sanding. I got to do a little research here. There's supposed to be portholes in this side piece. Now I don't know how true that is, because the Polar Lights, the little mini one, has a ring of portholes here as well as up here, so I don't know what's true. Like I said, I got to do a little more research. So there's definitely portholes here scattered through this horseshoe. Again, like I said, these are the vacuum holes. I got porthole. This is square, round, 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 square, square. So that's what the vinyl is for. I was reading through the instructions. So I guess the intent is when you get ready to put this on, and you do your body work, you're going to wind up sanding off these, sanding off the windows. So you got to pre-drill the windows before you do your sanding. And then of course this is the plasma emitter, which still on a fence whether I'm going to light that or not. You know, if I was going to light it, then I got to figure out some way of making some kind of a plasma bob that I get just fired. So essentially that's kind of where I'm sitting. This is pretty, right now it's pretty pristine. There's no, got one little melt point here, I guess, where I gobbed all my damn glue. As I said, the glue, you pull it enough, it will distort this. I'm not sure. That's got to be from me. Some of the stuff here is just from the casting when they vacuum formed it. From what I read on the instructions, the initial kit was a fiberglass entire model, and when the guy handed it over to the gentleman that did the vacuum form, the guy cut the wings off, and I guess he filled it with something, but that something left a really rough surface. So we'll go from there, but it's definitely got you can see the V indentation. This has also got the accurate hull representation. Well, that little Polar Lights kit, that's where I was going with this. The little Polar Lights kit, and if you find some drawings on the web, they show like places for landing gear, which I may or may not follow through, but the landing gear was just like circles here, one back here. But what I really liked on that little Polar Lights model kit and the photo etch that came along with it, it showed some like impulse engines here, and you know, maybe a few more portholes, windows, whatever you want to call them. So as I get closer to the point where I'm going to start drilling out my windows, I may look at doing this. Like I said, right now I'm kind of undecided, so I don't know if I want to make this Canon or, you know, I want to customize it. So I mean, this is for me. not to be rude, but it is for me. So, but I think I can find a happy medium in there somewhere. Other than that, that's about all I got right now. I guess when I get closer to drilling some holes, I want to make sure I got everything I need in here. Then I'm going to check fit with this. I haven't trimmed this yet. And like what I was telling, you know, in the instructions, they tell you not to cut this part off, to cut out here. So I'll have to go from there. Other than that, that's all I got right now. So stay tuned.